Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Private Practice with Soul podcast. This is the first podcast for counsellors that just don't align with the traditional approaches to business and that want to use their spiritual gifts, talents, and interests to create, you guessed it, a private practice with soul. So, look, leave it to me to provide you with everything you need, including strategies that you can use to increase your income, reduce your workload, and of course, increase inquiries and referrals to your beautiful soul-led private practice. I love it so much. If you haven't done it already, grab your journal, grab your pen, and let's begin. Welcome. Okay, I'm just going to dive straight in. Hey, guess what? Just before I do, says I'm just going to dive straight in, but wait. Guess what just arrived in the mail? I got my little bag of sweary affirmations. I know, it's so cute, right? I think it's about 20 cards. They're about the size of a little credit card. Like you could fit them in the window of your wallet. And I just have a little affirmation, something with a bad word in them. And making me have a bit of a giggle this morning. I love it so much. Okay, so what I want to talk with you about today, let's have a look. What we're doing today is I want to talk with you about building connections through using tools that you already have available to you that aren't necessarily spiritual, but can be for those of you who are like me and love that sort of stuff. But I'm talking about really visualization. So here's the thing. You can really set yourself up to have a really great session with a client. You can set yourself up to have a great post on your social. You can set yourself up to have a really fantastic email that's going to be received by those who need to read it and seen by those who need to see it and things like that. This is something that we are doing a training on this month in the inner circle. So if you're in the inner circle, get excited because you're going to get all of this and more. This is just sort of a sample of what's to come. So how do we do it and why is it important? Well, I think it's really important to get grounded into the energy of creating a connection with your client or with your reader or with your viewer if you're doing YouTube, or your listener if you're doing audio like I do. Because if you have that clear, open channel of communication, then we know that there's going to be a good flow. We know that you're going to be able to express yourself really clearly and in a way that resonates with your client, but we also know that your client or your reader or your viewer, etc., is going to be able to receive it and perhaps even send energy back, okay, in whatever way. It might be a nice email to you. It might be a little like or a heart on one of your social posts. It could be, a nice comment in your podcast, whatever or your YouTube channel, whatever you're doing, okay? Or if it's in your session, of course, we want to set them up to have a really helpful, valuable, transformational, beautiful session because it's coming from your soul, not from your head, right? So how do we do this? Let me explain my process, and I would love to hear your process too. So if you feel like sharing, please do. But I'm going to share with you a process that I use. Feel free to borrow my process and adapt it or change it to suit your practice philosophy and how you like to work and all those sorts of beautiful things. So the first thing that I do is declutter. Now, I don't do this every single day, but I want to declutter the space before I create a post. I'm not talking about commenting. I'm talking about the art of sitting down and actually writing something from a soul space, like putting your heart and soul into an email that you're writing or a post that you're writing or something that you're going to be talking about. So declutter is the first thing. And I like to do that because I feel like when I have a clean space, even if it's not the study, maybe it's just the desk in the study, but if I've got a clear space to work from, then I know that I'm going to be a better vessel for energy, for source, for inspiration to come through, all those sorts of things, because I just think clearer in a clear space. And I believe that if there's too much going on in the space, it's just going to make it harder for us to receive the guidance we need before we create things. So that's the first thing, clear your space. And I mean like physically declutter, even if it just means putting things from point A to point B just so you've got the space, but also energetically. So what that can look like is maybe you want to imagine that maybe you want to like close your eyes and you want to settle your breath and you want to say your mantra or your affirming statement, or maybe it's a little prayer that you have. But say that, and maybe you want to also imagine that there's, white light, and that this white light is expanding out, it's pulsing out with every breath that you take. This white light begins to fill up the room because it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then maybe you imagine that white light goes down through the earth, down through the floor, right to the core of the earth, where it's transmuted back into beautiful things from Mother Nature, right? So that's one thing that you can do. Or if you don't want to send the energy down, so you want to send the energy down and it's taking all of the things with it that aren't good, like all the negative vibes and the negative energy, and it's taking all that negative stuff and it's putting it down into the earth where it can be transformed, right? Transmuted, I mean. Or you could move all that energy up, and it could go up to the ether where it can be transformed and transmuted there into something really clean and pure and beautiful. Either way, whether it's below or above, we're shifting that energy, okay? And then what I want you to do is, once you've cleared the space, the other thing, that I do to clear the space is I have a Palo Santo spray that I got from Cleanse & Co. Now, I know I do often talk about Cleanse & Co, and I'm not affiliated with them in any way, shape or form. They're just my go-to people for things like this. And the reason that I really like this one is because it's for smokeless smudging. So it's a mix of Palo Santo, lemon and frankincense. So I guess you could make your own blend of this with a little bit of water or, oil or whatever you wanted. And there's some crystals in the bottom. Right? I'm just shaking that so you could verify that I have my crystals. But that's going to cleanse the air for you as well. So try doing that. And then the next thing that you want to do is open your channel, right? So by opening your channel, what you're going to do is you're just going to, bring your hands to prayer position in front of your heart. And then you're just going to take a deep breath in, and you're going to open your arms up to the ceiling so that they close above your head again, and just let your hands travel down, back to your heart space. And while you're doing that, just set your intention that you're opening up the channel, okay? You're opening up the channel of energy, of love, of receiving, of all those sorts of beautiful things. And then what I want you to do is, still while your hands are in that prayer position, I want you to then visualize, if you like, you don't have to do this, but I do, especially when I'm working with my supervisees or my coaching clients and, going on group calls and things like that. I want to bring to mind my client or something that represents my client. And I want to imagine a beautiful, shimmery, sparkly beam of light. Now, whether that's a white light, whether it's pink, whether it's, I just whacked my microphone. I'm moving my hands around a lot as I'm explaining. Or whether it's blue light, for communication, and pink for love and all that sort of stuff. But imagine like a colored, shimmery light that's going from your heart to theirs, okay, and back again. I want you, while you're doing that, to imagine that, you're in your room and you're waiting for your client, and your client comes, and I want you to see you welcome your client into the space. And I want you to see your client, I want you to imagine their shoulders just drop as soon as they come in, because they just feel like they can relax. They don't need to feel defensive and uptight anymore. this is the space you've created for them where they can come and they just don't have to put the mask on. They can leave that at the door and they can just be, and they know that, and that's the energy. And so they're welcomed into that counselling space with an attitude of kindness, of compassion, of warmth, of love, of all those sorts of beautiful, beautiful feelings. And then I want you to imagine the session unfolding. And I want you then to fast forward to the session finishing and imagine the client, imagine the client is full of gratitude. Imagine you're full of gratitude. Imagine the client feels better. They're starting to improve. There's a shift happening, Imagine their vibe is raising. Imagine how you're responding energetically to this. Imagine yourself feeling grounded and good, and your heart is full because your cup is full, because you've held that space where you've deepened a relationship, you've nurtured that relationship, you've witnessed a transformation. There's been power in that space that you've both held with each other. And then you're imagining seeing the client off, right? And that's what I want you to really, really visualize. And then when you're done with that, just gently return your awareness to the room and, have gratitude to yourself for giving yourself a moment to do this, very brief visualization. And then all you're going to do is just maybe shake your hands a little bit just to get the energy shifting and flowing. And then you're going to go and see your client. Now, you can do this same process before you share a post. You can do this same process before you go to comment on a post or something like that. But I believe that when you set an intention and when you can visualize things going well, and well doesn't always mean an outcome, but well means the way that it needs to happen, the way that it needs to unfold for the highest good of that person and yourself and all others, even when it's unexpected what we experience. I think that you set the scene, you set the tone, you set the vibe to be very, very healing and very, very transformative. And that's how you stay in flow, and that's how you stay energized by your work. I think when we start to feel like we're drained by our work, it's because we've lost that connection to our soul, and we've lost that connection to what we're doing and how we really, really need to be showing up. So what I would love you to play with over the next, few days before the next episode of the podcast is, I would just love you to create a process for yourself along these lines. And I'll read out my steps again. But the first step really is to declutter. The second step is to cleanse and clear your space. So whether you do that through a white light meditation, whether you light a candle, whether you use a spritz like the Palo Santo, smokeless sage that I've got, whether you charge your crystals and you put them around you and you have your selenite and all of that sort of jazz, totally up to you. Then you're going to set an intention. And that intention might be something really simple. It could just be to be, to be able to help your client or help whoever reads this post or email or listens to this podcast in a way that it's going to be so powerful and effective for them. Step 4 is you're going to open up your channel. Step 5, you're going to do that mini visualization of you just want to picture the beginning, the middle, and the end all going really well, however you define well. And then step 6 is we're going to be closing the channel. Okay, so to close the channel, just return your hands back to prayer position. And just give thanks and give gratitude. And then if you like, take your hands out and open your hands out, palms up, going up to the sky, close them above your head, let them travel down back to your heart again. That's all. Just say thank you. And you could do this in your room. No one's going to see you. You can do it while you're waiting for your client to turn up on the Zoom. No one's going to see you. Do you know what I mean? But putting a little practice like this in place can certainly help you feel more connected to your client, more connected to source energy, more connected to the mother archetype, better able to be in service to the very, very people that need you the very, very most right now. So, do you love it? I hope you do. If you have a similar process, or you use this process and update it to reflect your needs, do let me know. I would love to hear about it. Jump into one of the groups, either ACPPO or CCA. I'll put the links in the show notes. They're both free groups. Come in there and tell us a little bit about it. I can't wait to hear how you go. And I really, 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 really hope that this little ritual around creating healing connections with your clients, or your reader, or your viewer, or your listener, serves you very, 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 very well. Like anything, it can take a little bit of time to start to see results. You're not going to see them overnight. Some of you may, but generally this is a practice, and a practice means it's something we need to do every single day. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Private Practice with Sol podcast. I will see you in a few days. Bye. I hope that you loved this episode as much as I loved putting it together for you. To get more resources to help you in your private practice, head over to Instagram. My handle is @theprivatepracticecoach. And also, if you want more inquiries and referrals for your business, let me know. I have a program called Clients on Demand that opens every quarter, and I can absolutely get you some information for that as well. You are doing an amazing job. Thank you for sharing your gifts with the world. Bye.